Jun Suk was already bleeding when his phone rang. He stood in the empty cathedral 2 hours before his own wedding, pressing a white handkerchief against the bullet graze on his neck. The assassin's body was cooling behind the altar, another gift from his loving bride-to-be, the district attorney's daughter, who apparently wanted to collect the insurance before she even collected the ring. The golden tiger, embroidered on his blood-stained vest, mocked him. His family's symbol, his father's empire, everything he was about to sell his soul to protect. But in 60 seconds, a phone call from a woman he thought he'd buried in his past would shatter everything. In 60 seconds, he would discover his ex-lover had been hiding in Chicago's frozen alleys for 9 months, pregnant, terrified, and hemorrhaging. In 60 seconds, he would have to choose between the wedding that would save his family from federal prison and the woman giving birth to his son in sub-zero cold, alone, dying in the snow. Before this story begins, I need you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me if the woman you loved more than breathing was dying in an alley while you stood in a cathedral about to marry someone else for power. What would you do? Would you choose duty or would you choose love? Your comments fuel these stories. Hit that subscribe button because what happens next will break you. Now, let's dive in. The phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. In his world, unknown numbers, 2 hours before strategic weddings usually meant more threats, more violence, more problems his father expected him to solve with a bullet and a shallow grave. But something about the timing felt wrong, like fate calling. He answered, Jun Sok Park? A woman's voice, breathless, panicked, with an accent he recognized West African, probably Nigerian. Who is this? My name is Amara. I'm Natalie's friend, Natalie Nance. I don't know how to say this. The world stopped. Natalie. He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 9 months. After she vanished from Chicago, after his father's threats, after he'd convinced himself she was safe or gone, he'd forbidden anyone in his organization from mentioning her. It hurt too much. It reminded him he was still human underneath the monster. Where is she? His voice was barely a whisper. Is she okay? No. No. She's not okay. Amara was crying now. She went into labor 3 hours ago. She's on West Madison Street, off the alley by the old textile warehouse. She's bleeding, Jun Sok. She's bleeding so much, and she won't let me call an ambulance because she says your father will find her. She says he'll take the baby. She says he'll kill her. The cathedral spun. Labor, bleeding, his baby, his son. I'm coming. He was already moving toward the door, his wedding shoes echoing on marble. Don't let her fall asleep. Keep her talking. I'm 10 minutes away. Jun Sok, Amara's voice cracked. She's so cold. The snow. There's so much blood in the snow. Jun Sok's fingers moved across the phone screen with surgical precision. Each tap a declaration of war against everything his family had built. Minho, cancel the wedding. Now, the silence on the other end lasted exactly 3 seconds, an eternity in their world where hesitation meant death. Boss, the cathedral is full of, I don't care if God himself is waiting at the altar. Jun Sok's voice cut through the chaos of sirens and squealing tires as his convoy tore through Chicago's streets. Get everyone out, then dispatch the trauma team to West Madison Memorial. Full surgical suite. I want Dr. Chen there in 20 minutes, or I'll burn his practice to the ground. Consider it done. Minho's loyalty never wavered, never questioned. It was why he'd survived 15 years in the park organization while others had been buried in shallow graves. Jun Sok's phone erupted before he could lower it. His father's name blazed across the screen like a curse. He answered, already bracing for the storm. Have you lost your mind? Chairman Park's voice could shatter bulletproof glass. You walk away from this wedding, and D.A. Choi will have federal indictments on my desk by Monday morning. The alliance with his family is the only thing keeping the feds from... The alliance? Jun Sok's laugh was acid. Your precious alliance sent a hit squad to the cathedral. Yuna Choi ordered my execution 20 minutes ago. 6 shooters with your wedding invitation as their entry pass. The line went dead silent. Not the silence of shock, the silence of a predator recalculating. Yuna wouldn't. She did. Jun-sok watched Chicago blur past his window, every second an eternity Natalie might not have. The Choi family was always planning to eliminate me. The wedding was just theater, marry me off, consolidate power, then put a bullet in my skull during the honeymoon. The grieving widow takes over the Park empire with her father's backing. You're throwing away everything I built. His father's voice cracked with something that might have been fear. Without this alliance, the organization will collapse. Every enemy we've ever made will smell blood and come for us. Jun-sok's jaw tightened until his teeth ached. I don't care. You don't, his father sputtered. Rage and disbelief warring for dominance. Everything I've sacrificed, everything this family has become, was never mine to protect. The words came out steady, final. The only people I'm responsible for now are Natalie and my son. Your empire, your alliances, your deals with the devil, let them burn. I'm done. He ended the call and hurled the phone against the seat. Through the windshield, West Madison Memorial's lights blazed like a beacon. Please, he thought, just hold on. Jun-sok found her in an alley 3 blocks from the hospital, collapsed on flattened cardboard boxes that were already soaked through with blood and melting snow. Black plastic bags surrounded her like a fortress of garbage, and her body convulsed violently, her breath coming in sharp, animal sounds that tore through the howling wind. The blood pooled around her legs, steaming in the frigid air, and for one terrible moment, he thought he was too late. Natalie. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands shaking as he reached for her face. Natalie. I'm here. I'm here. Her eyes rolled toward him, unfocused and wild with pain. You. I know what he said. Jun-seok's voice cracked. I know he found you. I know about the gun. She let out a sob that turned into a scream, her back arching off the wet cardboard. He put it against my stomach. Said he'd take the baby the second it was born, and then he'd kill me so you'd stay clean. The rage that flooded through him was cold and sharp, but he pushed it down. He had time for rage later. Right now, he needed to save her. I called the ambulance. They're coming. Just hold on. 9 months, she gasped, her fingers clutching at his coat. I hid for 9 months in shelters, under bridges. I couldn't let him find me again. I'm sorry. The words fell out of him, raw and desperate. God, Natalie, I'm so sorry. I was a coward. I let you leave. I spent 9 months drowning in guilt, and I should have fought for you from the beginning. I'm done being his weapon. Do you hear me? I'm done. The sirens cut through the storm, and seconds later paramedics surrounded them, their flashlights cutting harsh white paths through the darkness. One of them knelt beside Natalie, his gloved hands moving quickly over her distended belly, and his face went tight. Placental abruption with cord prolapse, he said sharply to his partner. We can't move her. If we do, we cut off oxygen to the baby completely. What does that mean? Jun-sok demanded. The paramedic met his eyes. It means we deliver the baby here, right now, in the snow, or they both die. Natalie screamed again, and Jun-sok gripped her hand as the paramedics began shouting orders, their movements fast and controlled. The alley filled with light and noise and the metallic scent of blood, and all he could do was hold her and pray they weren't already too late. The baby's cry was weak, barely more than a whimper against the sterile air of the underground clinic. Jun-sok's hands trembled as he cradled his son, impossibly small, chest rising and falling in shallow, desperate breaths. The infant's skin was translucent, veined like porcelain, and when those tiny eyes flickered open for just a moment, Jun-sok felt something crack open inside him that could never be sealed again. He's premature, Dr. Choi said, her voice tight with concern. His lungs aren't fully developed. I know what we need. Jun-sok pressed his lips to his son's forehead, breathing in that new life smell that shouldn't exist in a place like this, surrounded by blood and fear. Noah, he whispered. Your name is Noah, and I will never let them touch you. Never. Behind him, Natalie's breathing had become ragged, wet. He turned to see blood, too much blood pooling beneath the gurney, despite everything Dr. Choi had done. The makeshift surgery had stopped the immediate crisis, but Natalie's face was gray, her lips colorless. She's still hemorrhaging, Dr. Choi said, her professionalism barely masking panic. I've done everything I can here. She needs a trauma center. Now. Min-ho was already moving, phone pressed to his ear. Coordinating their escape route. Vehicles ready. Underground exit, clear, for the next 4 minutes. They transferred Natalie to the gurney in Min-ho's unmarked SUV, the baby secured in Jun-suk's arms. The paramedic, a trusted contact of Min-ho's, worked frantically to keep Natalie's IV lines running, pumping fluids and blood expanders into her failing system. Every second counted. The SUV roared up the exit ramp into Seoul's pre-dawn streets. For 3 glorious minutes, Jun-suk allowed himself to hope. Then Min-ho's eyes found the rearview mirror. We've got company. 2 black sedans materialized behind them like sharks scenting blood. Jun-suk recognized the lead driver even through the tinted windshield, Lieutenant Kwon, Park Dae-jung's most efficient enforcer. The man who'd once broken a prosecutor's hands with a car door for asking the wrong questions. Hold on. Min-ho accelerated hard, weaving through early morning traffic. The first sedan pulled alongside, trying to force them toward the guardrail. Jun-suk shifted Noah into the paramedic's arms, then drew his service weapon, the one he'd sworn never to fire, outside the line of duty. He fired through the window. Glass exploded. The sedan's front tire shredded, sending the vehicle spinning into a concrete barrier. But the second car was already there. And these enforcers weren't trying to stop them anymore. They were trying to kill them. Bullets punched through the rear windshield. The paramedic screamed, clutching his shoulder as blood sprayed across the medical equipment. Min-ho swerved wildly, tires shrieking. Ahead, a police checkpoint materialized, standard morning traffic control. Min-ho didn't slow down. Brace, he shouted, and drove straight through the barricade. The ambulance screamed through Seoul's midnight streets, red lights bleeding across Jun-suk's face as he gripped Natalie's hand. Her skin had gone the color of ash, lips tinged blue, and the paramedic's frantic movements told him everything. The machine's screaming alarms confirmed she was dying. BP's crashing 80/40 were losing her. The paramedic slammed another IV bag into place, but Natalie's eyes found Jun-suk's through the chaos, burning with terrifying clarity. Promise me, her voice came out in broken gasps. Blood soaked through the blankets beneath her. If I don't make it, promise you'll take Noah and run. Not to your penthouse, not to your lawyers. You run from them, Jun-suk. From all of them. Don't talk like that. Swear it. Her nails dug into his wrist with shocking strength. Choose him over everything. Over your father's empire, over your name, over your own life, if it comes to that. Swear you'll protect our son from those monsters. The words ripped from his throat. I swear on everything I am. She smiled, then, just barely. Her grip went slack. Then, the monitor flatlined. No. The sound was primal, inhuman. Paramedics shoved him back as they descended on her with the defibrillator. The ambulance swerved violently. Someone was screaming, "Clear!" and Natalie's body arched off the gurney. Once, twice. The third shock brought back a weak, thready pulse just as they crashed through the trauma center doors. Hours dissolved into a nightmare of fluorescent lights and antiseptic terror. Jun-suk stood frozen outside the NICU, watching through glass as doctors worked over something impossibly small in an incubator. Noah, 3 pounds, 2 ounces. Tubes everywhere. Machines breathing for him, feeding him, keeping his premature heart beating. Mr. Park? A nurse touched his shoulder, gesturing toward the waiting room TV. His father's face filled the screen, flanked by lawyers and board members. The chyron read, Park Enterprises Emergency Press Conference. My son is suffering a severe mental breakdown. his father announced, voice heavy with theatrical grief. He's become dangerous to himself, to others, to the organization we've built. Effective immediately. I'm assuming full operational control and initiating emergency psychiatric intervention. We pray for his recovery. The TV showed old footage of Jun-suk, disheveled, arguing with someone outside a bar. They'd been planning this, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy him. Behind him, somewhere in surgery, Natalie was still fighting for her life. And his son, his 3-pound miracle, lay surrounded by machines, utterly defenseless. The surgeon's voice was flat, clinical. She survived. But the internal damage was extensive. Ruptured spleen, severe abdominal trauma, fractured ribs. We stopped the bleeding. But recovery will be long. She may never be the same. Jun-suk stood outside Natalie's ICU room, watching her pale face through the glass. Tubes and wires connected her to machines that beeped steadily, the only sound keeping him anchored to reality. Then, the elevator doors opened. Park Dae-jung emerged, flanked by 12 men in dark suits, their hands resting inside their jackets. The ICU floor emptied within seconds, nurses vanishing into supply closets, patients' families suddenly finding urgent business elsewhere. His father moved with the unhurried confidence of a man who owned everything he touched. "You made quite the scene," Dae-jung said, stopping 10 feet away. "Threatening me in front of witnesses. Reckless. She was pregnant." Jun-suk's voice cut through the sterile air. "You terrorized a pregnant woman into hiding. You hunted her down and nearly killed her. I protected my family's legacy." His father's eyes were cold. "Something you seem incapable of understanding." "I understand perfectly." Jun-suk straightened, pulling out his phone. "Which is why I've prepared a detailed file for federal prosecutors. Trafficking routes, corrupt officials on your payroll, shell companies in the Caymans, everything. Unless you let us disappear, it all goes public." Dae-jung's expression didn't change, but 2 of his men shifted nervously. "Interesting bluff," his father gestured to someone behind him. A nurse appeared, wheeling an incubator down the hallway. Through the clear plastic, Noah slept, oblivious to the standoff happening around him. Jun-suk's blood turned to ice. "Here's my counteroffer," Dae-jung said quietly. "You return home. You marry Yuna Choi as planned. You never contact that woman or the child again. In exchange, I ensure they remain safe and hidden, well-funded, protected. They'll want for nothing as long as you fulfill your obligations." "You're insane." "I'm practical." His father took a step toward Natalie's room. "Accidents happen in hospitals all the time. Equipment failures, medication errors. So tragic." The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Jun-suk looked at Natalie through the glass, then at his son in the incubator. Both so fragile, both completely at his father's mercy. "Fine." The word tasted like death. "I'll do it." His father smiled. "Smart boy." The fluorescent lights flickered once before the glass doors exploded inward. Jun-suk spun toward the sound, his hand instinctively reaching for the Glock he'd holstered beneath his jacket. 6 men poured through the hospital entrance, black tactical gear, automatic weapons, faces hidden behind balaclavas. The lead operative's boots crunched over shattered glass as he scanned the lobby with mechanical precision. "Yi Triad," Minho breathed beside him, his usual composure fracturing. "They're here for her." Everything clicked into place with sickening clarity. The shipping containers. The women Natalie had seen being loaded like cargo 9 months ago. The reason she'd been running, hiding, living in terror, even as she carried their child. A nurse screamed. The gunman pivoted toward the sound. Jun-suk moved without thinking, firing 2 shots that sent the lead operative stumbling backward. "Get everyone to the stairwells." For the first time in 20 years, father and son fought as one. Minho barked orders into his phone while dragging metal equipment racks across the corridor. Jun-suk herded terrified nurses and patients toward the emergency exits. His mind calculating angles, cover points, ammunition counts. The ICU ward had 32 patients who couldn't be moved. The NICU held 17 premature infants, including Noah. They had minutes, maybe less. Fourth floor barricade, Minho shouted, shoving a medication cart against the stairwell door. His expensive suit jacket hung torn at the shoulder, blood seeping through white silk. I'll hold here. Get them to the roof. You can't. Move, Jun-sok. Gunfire erupted below. The building's emergency alarm wailed like a dying animal. Jun-sok grabbed two nurses, pushing them toward the upper levels as more civilians flooded the stairwell. A young mother clutched her newborn, sobbing. An elderly man on crutches stumbled on the steps. The door behind Minho buckled, once, twice. Go, his father roared, bracing his entire weight against the barrier. Jun-sok's feet refused to move. Through the reinforced glass window, he watched Minho press harder as wood splintered, metal groaned. Their eyes met across 15 feet of space that might as well have been an ocean. His father nodded once. The door exploded inward. Minho disappeared beneath the blast, but the barricade held buying seconds that felt like eternities. Jun-sok ran. Behind him, automatic weapons fire tore through the fourth-floor corridor. Ahead, terrified screams echoed from the NICU as the Yi triad breached the neonatal ward. Through the chaos, one sound rose above everything else. Noah's newborn cry, fragile and impossibly alive. The rooftop had become an island of desperation. Jun-sok crouched behind a ventilation unit, his hands slick with blood, some his own, most belonging to the 3 wounded civilians huddled behind makeshift barriers of overturned planters and maintenance equipment. Amara worked frantically on a teenager who'd caught shrapnel in the abdomen. Her scrubs soaked crimson, her movements precise despite the chaos. 6 nurses formed a protective semicircle around Natalie, who sat pale and trembling against the roof's edge, one hand pressed to her swollen belly. The burner phone felt heavy in Jun-sok's palm. He'd saved this number for years, never quite believing he'd use it. FBI Special Agent Maria Rivera had left her card at his clinic 18 months ago, her dark eyes promising safety if he ever wanted to talk about his father's empire. He dialed with shaking fingers. This is Rivera. My name is Dr. Park Jun-sok. You visited my clinic in Koreatown. He spoke quickly, watching the rooftop access door rattle in its frame. I'm on the roof of Memorial West with 15 civilians, including pregnant nurse Natalie Chen. The Yi triad is coming to kill her. I'll give you everything: my father's money laundering networks, Yi's trafficking routes, DA Choi's payoffs, all of it. But I need federal protection and medical evacuation now. Rivera's response was immediate. Keep this line open. Stay where you are. Helicopters are 7 minutes out. The access door exploded inward. 5 Yi enforcers spilled onto the roof. Led by a scarred man, Jun-sok, recognized from countless family meetings. Chen Wei, Yi's most ruthless lieutenant. His weapon swept the space before settling on Natalie's huddled form. Hand her over, doctor. This doesn't concern you anymore. But something extraordinary happened. Amara rose first, blood-streaked and furious, stepping directly into Chen's line of fire. The nurses followed, linking arms in front of Natalie. Then his father emerged from behind an HVAC unit where he'd been sheltering, limping forward on his cane to stand beside Amara. You want her? The old man's voice carried decades of command. You go through all of us first. Chen's laugh was ugly. Gladly. Sirens erupted from the streets below, a symphony of approaching justice. Chen's eyes narrowed, calculating odds that had suddenly shifted. His weapon rose, finger tightening on the trigger. The muzzle flash came twice. White-hot pain exploded through Jun-sok's chest, then his shoulder, spinning him sideways. He hit the rooftop hard, tasting copper, watching the sky fracture into crystalline fragments as helicopter rotors thundered overhead, their searchlights flooding the roof with blazing white salvation that came 2 seconds too late. Natalie's vision swam back into focus, the warehouse floor rough beneath her palms. She dragged herself toward Jun-sok, leaving a smear of blood behind her. He lay in an expanding pool of crimson, his breathing shallow and wet. The baby, she gasped, reaching for his hand. His fingers twitched against hers. Name him. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. Name him something that means. He'll always be free. Noah, she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. It means rest. His lips curved slightly before his eyes closed. The surgery took 6 hours. Natalie woke in recovery to learn he'd survived, but slipped into a coma. She spent 3 weeks pumping breast milk in a hospital room, watching monitors track his vital signs through the window. The doctors said his brain was healing. She had to believe them. When he finally opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Natalie in the bed beside his, their son nestled in her arms. Noah, she said softly, meet your father. The testimony stretched across 4 months. Jun-sok sat in courtroom after courtroom, his voice steady as he dismantled everything his father had built. Financial records, shipping manifests, bodies buried in construction sites. The Park empire crumbled like a sandcastle meeting the tide. His father received life without parole. The Yi triad collapsed under federal warrants. Federal marshals moved them to Lagos under cover of night. James Parker taught English at an international school, correcting essays about Shakespeare, while Noah napped in a Moses basket beside his desk. Natalie Parker took night classes in nursing. They lived in a modest apartment near the water, where the salt air smelled nothing like home. 6 months in, Jun-sok's phone rang with a prison number he'd memorized as a child. I wanted to hear him, his father's voice said, smaller than he remembered. The baby. Jun-sok held the phone toward Noah, who was giggling at his own reflection in a metal spoon. The sound of his father crying traveled across continents and prison walls. He sounds happy. He is, Jun-sok said. We all are. Good. A long pause. That's good, son. Son, not heir, not successor, just son. Jun-sok closed his eyes and let himself breathe. James was helping Noah practice his alphabet when his phone rang an unknown international number. His blood went cold even before he answered. Hello, James. Yuna Choi's voice cut through the line like a blade. Or, should I say, Mr. Thompson? Did you really think you could hide from us forever? His hand tightened around the phone. Yuna, my father spent 3 years in prison because of your testimony, she continued, her words dripping with venom. 3 years watching his reputation crumble. But he made friends inside, James. Very dangerous friends. Yi triad survivors who lost everything when you brought down their operation. James's throat went dry. What do you want? Justice. They've tracked you to Lagos. They're coming in 72 hours. I just thought you deserved a warning for old time's sake. She paused. Run. James. Run fast. Because this time, there's nowhere far enough. The line went dead. James stood frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear, until he felt Natalie's hand on his shoulder. What's wrong? Her face was pale, reading the terror in his eyes. We have to leave. Now, they found us. But instead of panic, Natalie took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. James, there's something you need to know first. I'm pregnant. 2 months, the doctor said. It's twins. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Twins. 2 more reasons to run, 2 more lives depending on him, 2 more chances to fail. He looked at Noah, sleeping peacefully on the couch, thumb in his mouth, oblivious to the danger closing in. Then, at Natalie's stomach, where 2 tiny hearts were beating. Then, at the door, that fragile barrier between his family and the violence he tried so hard to escape. We'll run again, he whispered, pulling her close. We'll keep running. To Cape Town, to Sydney, to the ends of the earth, if we have to. Because I finally understand what's worth fighting for. He kissed her forehead and moved toward the bedroom to pack emergency bags. His phone buzzed with a message. Unknown number. Photo attachment. Surveillance footage of their apartment building entrance. Time-stamped 2 hours ago. Crystal clear. Professional quality. Below it, 3 words. We're already here. Natalie. James grabbed Noah from the couch, the boy stirring in confusion. Take him and run. Now. The doorknob began to turn.